The night explodes in orange and black as the old tenement roars with fire. A massive black and tan shadow rockets through the wall of flame, jaws clamped on the throat of a man doused in gasoline, dragging him bodily across burning floorboards, while the arsonist screams and claws at fur that feels like steel cable. Sparks swirl like angry hornets. Somewhere inside that inferno are ledgers, hard drives, proof that could bring down half the county's elite. And the only thing standing between total destruction and justice is a dog that was never supposed to come home. 2 nights earlier, that same silent beast sat motionless in the dark, outside a trailer door, and listened to his handler's sister beg through tears, while a hired thug's fist split her cheek for being 3 days late on rent. The child watching from the hallway would never unsee what happened next when Titan decided rent was no longer the issue. This is Harrow's Mill, a dying river town in southern Illinois, where the factories closed 20 years ago, and the only thing that grew was Harlan Crow's slum empire. Where the sheriff banks his campaign checks in the same office that signs eviction notices, where good people learn to look away or get crushed. But they forgot one thing. They forgot about the brother who came home from Helmand with ice in his eyes and a 4-legged recon partner who kills on whispered command. They forgot that some debts aren't settled with money or muscle. They forgot Titan, a United States Marine Corps MWD, retired with more confirmed kills than most infantry platoons. A dog who once dragged his wounded handler 3 miles through Taliban fire and lived only because hate is a powerful medicine. Now he's back on American soil, off leash, and the people who hurt his blood are about to learn what happens when the chain comes off. 1 mother, 1 child, 1 dog, 1 night to burn it all down. But to understand how this town reached the brink of hell, we have to go back. Harrow's Mill sits in the crotch of the Ohio River, where the water runs the color of weak coffee, and the air always smells faintly of rust and wet dog. 20 years ago, the steel plant employed 4,000 souls. Now, the only thing belching smoke is the meth cook-up on Pikes Ridge. Main Street is a museum of broken neon and plywood windows. The only new construction in a decade has Harlan Crow's name on the brass plaque. Crow Realty, Crow Storage, Crow Rentals, Crow everything. At the end of Sycamore Row, past the railroad tracks nobody uses anymore, sits the Pine View Apartments, though the pines died in the 80s, and the view is of a cinder block wall spray painted with the words, "Rent is theft," in dripping red. Unit 2B is home to Emily Reese, 31, waitress at the Riverside Diner, mother to 7-year-old Lucas, who still believes superheroes wear capes instead of aprons. Emily works doubles 6 days a week because tips are better when the truckers roll in after midnight. She smiles through split lips when a customer calls her sweetheart, pockets the crumpled singles, and counts them twice on the bus ride home. The rent on 2B went from $450 to $900 in 3 years because Harlan Crow bought the complex with cash that smelled like cartel plastic. Emily is 3 days late this month, same as last month, same as the month before. The eviction notice taped to her door is printed on heavy cream stock, the kind of paper that costs more than the late fee itself. Inside 2B, the lights flicker because the wiring is original, 1962. Lucas sits cross-legged on the carpet doing math homework under the glow of a dollar store lamp. Emily's hands shake as she warms leftover spaghetti. She has $43 in her checking account and a shift tomorrow that might bring another $100 if the cook doesn't skim her tips again. She tells herself she'll figure it out. She always figures it out. Across the river, in the big white house on the hill that used to belong to the steel company president, Harlan Crow sips 30-year scotch and watches security feeds from Pine View on a wall of monitors. He is 58, silver-haired, soft-spoken, the kind of man who sends flowers to widows before he forecloses on their homes. He doesn't get his own hands dirty anymore. That's what men like Victor do. Victor is 6'5", 280, fresh out of Stateville on a weapons charge nobody can quite remember being filed. He wears a black sport coat 2 sizes too small, so the gun on his hip prints like a threat. Victor likes hurting people who can't hit back. Crow pays him in cash and lets him live in the basement of the rental office rent-free. At 9:17 p.m., the knock comes. 3 heavy blows that rattle the thin door in its frame. Emily wipes her hands on a dish towel, tells Lucas to stay in his room, and opens the door to the length of chain. Victor's shadow swallows the light from the hallway. "Rent's due, sweetheart," he says, voice like gravel in a blender. "I get paid Friday," Emily answers, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'll have it Friday, I swear." Friday was last week. Victor leans forward. The chain snaps like cheap plastic. Emily stumbles back as he fills the doorway. Lucas appears behind her, small fists clenched, eyes wide. Victor smiles the way a wolf smiles at a rabbit that just realized the burrow has only one exit. 3 days grace is over, he says. Mr. Crow wants the unit empty by morning. Emily steps between the giant and her son. "You put us on the street. Where are we supposed to go?" "Not my problem." Victor reaches for her arm. She slaps his hand away. The sound is sharp, shocking in the tiny apartment. For one heartbeat, everything is still. Then Victor backhands her so hard, her feet leave the floor. She hits the wall beside the refrigerator and slides down, blood already at the corner of her mouth. Lucas screams. Victor raises his fist again. That is the exact moment the lights in the hallway behind him go out, as if someone cut the power to the whole world, and something very large begins to breathe in the dark. Victor never hears the hallway door open. He only feels the temperature drop, like someone cracked a freezer in July. Emily is on the floor, copper taste flooding her mouth, one arm crooked protectively in front of Lucas. The boy has gone dead silent. Children know when monsters arrive. Victor turns. A man stands in the broken doorway, framed by the weak bulb from the stairwell. 6'2", maybe 210, desert-faded multicam jacket, sleeves rolled to the elbow, showing forearms laced with shrapnel scars. His hair is high and tight, eyes flat and black like spent shell casings. At his left thigh, motionless as a statue carved from night itself, sits a Belgian Malinois, the color of dried blood and shadow. No bark, no growl, just a low exhale through nostrils that have scented cordite on 3 continents. The dog's ears are forward, eyes locked on Victor's throat with the patience of something that already knows exactly how this ends. Victor's hand drifts toward the pistol under his coat. The dog's lip twitches a millimeter, just enough. "Don't," the man says, voice quiet, almost gentle. Southern Illinois, under the Carolina sand. "My sister asked you to leave." Emily's breath catches. "Caleb?" Sergeant Caleb Reese, USMC Recon, retired on paper, has not been home in 9 years. The last time Emily saw him, he was boarding a bus for Paris Island with 17-year-old defiance in his eyes. Now the defiance is gone, replaced by something colder. Victor finds his voice. "This is private property. You're trespassing." Caleb steps inside. The dog flows with him. Silent pause, never quite touching the cheap linoleum at the same moment. Victor's hand freezes halfway to his waistband. 3 seconds, Caleb says. "Apologize to my sister and walk away, or Titan starts earning his retirement." The dog's name lands like a thrown knife. Victor has heard stories. Everybody in Harlan Crow's orbit has. The dog that cleared compounds in Marja alone after his handler took shrapnel in the femur. The dog the Taliban put a bounty on, 25,000 US, dead or alive. They never collected. Victor swallows. "Look, man, I'm just doing my job. Your job ends at the threshold when a woman says no. Caleb's voice never rises. Apologize. Emily pushes herself up on one elbow, blood threading from her lip. Caleb, don't. But Victor sees the math changing. One man and one dog against him. And the dog is already calculating angles. He forces a laugh that dies in his throat. Sorry, he mutters, eyes on the floor. Won't happen again. He backs out fast, shoulder clipping the doorframe. The second he crosses into the hallway, he bolts, boots hammering down the stairs like a man fleeing a burning building. The apartment is suddenly too quiet. Emily stares at her brother as if he's a ghost. Lucas edges out from behind her, staring at the dog with open wonder. Titan sits, perfect military set, front paws aligned, gaze still fixed on the empty doorway in case the threat returns. Emily finds her voice. You weren't supposed to be home until Christmas. Got an early out, Caleb says. He kneels, finally letting emotion crack the surface, and pulls her into a careful hug around the swelling on her cheek. Good conduct discharge and a plane ticket. Didn't know I'd need it this soon. Lucas tugs Caleb's sleeve. Is he really your dog? Caleb looks down at the boy, then at Titan. He's my partner. Saved my life more times than the Corps ever did. Titan turns his head, regards the child for the first time. Lucas extends a trembling hand. Titan lowers his great head and allows the touch just once, then returns to scanning the room like a sniper scanning rooftops. Emily starts to cry, the kind that comes after adrenaline when the body finally believes it's safe. Caleb's jaw sets. Who's Harlan Crow to you? He owns everything, she whispers. The building, the diner, half the cops. He wants Pineview gone, says the land's worth more empty. Been raising rent until nobody can pay, then evicting. Some folks just disappeared. Caleb stands. The soft brother is gone. The Recon Marine is back. Then he just made this personal. Outside, Victor is already on the phone in the parking lot, voice shaking, as he tells Harlan Crow that Emily Reese's deadbeat brother is home, and he brought something worse than a brother. Harlan listens without interrupting, then says 3 calm words before hanging up. Fix it permanently. Chapter 3. The Hero and the Dog. Arrive. 804 words. Caleb Reese had not come home to fight a war. He had come home to disappear. The plan was simple. 1 duffel, 1 crate, 1 quiet patch of riverbank where nobody asked about the nightmares or the way Titan sometimes woke growling at shadows that weren't there. But the second he saw the bruise blooming across his sister's cheek, the plan burned away like morning fog. That night, he sleeps on Emily's floor with his back to the wall and Titan stretched across the doorway, a living tripwire. At 0400, the dog's ears swivel. Caleb is awake before his eyes open, hand already on the grip of the Glock under the folded jacket he uses as a pillow. Nothing moves outside, just the town breathing its poisoned breath. Titan relaxes, but only a fraction. By dawn, Caleb is moving. He starts at the courthouse, walking the public records room like he used to walk village census lists in Helmand. Slow, methodical, memorizing faces and names. Pineview Apartments was sold to Crow Realty 2 years ago for $1. $2 million. 6 months later, the assessed value jumped to $9. $4 million after a rezoning for commercial waterfront. The signature on the rezone request belongs to County Commissioner Roy Dell, who also co-signed Crow's last 3 campaign checks. The appraisal was done by a firm that shares office space with Crow's lawyer. Same pattern on 4 other complexes along the riverfront. It is not subtle. It only works because nobody ever looks. At noon, he stands outside the Riverside Diner, watching Emily carry plates with the same careful smile she wore at 16. She catches his eye through the window and shakes her head once. Don't make a scene. He nods, but his eyes keep scanning, The sheriff's cruiser parked across the street with Deputy Hollis inside, pretending to read a newspaper. The black Tahoe with tinted windows that circles the block twice. Titan waits in the shade of a dying elm, chained to a parking meter, only because the town ordinance demands it. The chain is theatrical. Caleb looped it twice so the links would part with one sharp jerk if needed. A woman walking a poodle crosses the street rather than pass within 20 feet of the Malinois. Titan does not acknowledge her existence. By dusk, Caleb has a map in his head. Every property Crow has swallowed, every foreclosure, every accidental fire that cleared a parcel for new development. He has names, he has dates. What he does not have is proof that will survive the sheriff's shredder. So he goes to the one place in Harrow's Mill that still fears nothing. The VFW on Water Street is a cinderblock box with a busted neon schooner in the window. Inside, old men nurse beers and tell the same lies they told in 1972. Caleb walks in wearing the same desert boots he wore when he left. Conversation dies like someone pulled a plug. He lays a folded 20 on the bar. Need a quiet table and 5 minutes of silence. The bartender, a former 1st Cav sergeant with a prosthetic hand, pockets the bill and jerks his chin toward the back room. 10 minutes later, the room is empty except for Caleb, Titan, and 3 Vietnam-era grunts who still remember what it feels like to come home unwanted. Caleb spreads courthouse printouts across the felt of a pool table. "I'm not asking you to carry rifles," he says. "Just tell me what you've seen." They talk, a warehouse fire that paid for the new marina, a city councilman who stopped asking questions after his grandson got accepted to a military academy he couldn't afford. Missing persons reports that never left the sheriff's desk. The stories line up like rounds in a magazine. One old man, liver-spotted hands, shaking as he lights a cigarette, says, "Crow's getting ready for the big one. Whole riverfront. Casino money from St. Louis. They need it cleared by spring. People who won't sell. Well, accidents happen." Caleb folds the printouts. Accidents stop tonight. He steps outside into air thick with coming rain. Titan rises from his downstay, shakes once, and falls in at heel without a word. The first fat drop hits the sidewalk as Caleb pulls the burner phone he bought at a truck stop in Paducah. He dials a number he swore he'd never use stateside. "Staff Sergeant Reese," a familiar voice answers. "Thought you were done with wars." "I am," Caleb says. "This one's personal." He tells the man on the other end, a Defense Department evidence clerk who owes him a life, what he needs. The voice on the phone laughs once, tired and bitter. "Give me 48 hours, and Caleb, try not to get the dog shot. Paperwork's a bitch." Caleb hangs up. Thunder rolls over the river like incoming artillery. Across town, Harlan Crow watches the same storm gather on radar and feels, for the first time in years, something perilously close to unease. He makes a call of his own. "Bring the accelerant," he says. "We're burning the records tonight, and if the Reese boy shows up, bury him with them." Chapter 4. The conspiracy unravels. 815 words. Rain comes down in sheets, turning every alley into a black mirror. Caleb moves through it like he was born to it, hood up, Titan gliding at his side, paws silent on the wet pavement. They are ghosts tonight, and ghosts don't knock. The evidence clerk comes through at 2:14 a.m. An encrypted drop of scanned mortgage files, signatures, wire transfers from a Cayman shell company to Sheriff Bodine's personal account, to Commissioner Dell's, to the county judge who signs every Crow foreclosure without reading it. The money trail ends at a St. Louis investment group that wants a riverfront casino and doesn't care whose homes are bulldozed to make room. The last page is a contingency contract. If the riverfront isn't cleared by March, Crow forfeits $50 million. Caleb prints the pages at the 24-hour laundromat on 3rd, steam fogging the windows, while Titan sits beneath the folding table like a black statue. He makes 3 sets. One goes into a waterproof pouch taped under the spare tire of Emily's ancient Corolla. One goes to the VFW bartender with instructions to mail it to the Illinois Attorney General if Caleb doesn't call by sunrise. The 3rd set he carries in a plastic grocery bag, folded small. At 3:47 a.m., he stands across the street from Crow Realty's office, an old brick bank building with iron bars on the windows and a new steel door. The rain has chased even the drunks inside. Titan's ears flick once. He smells gasoline. Caleb circles to the alley. A box truck is backed up to the loading dock, engine idling. Victor and 2 others are carrying bankers' boxes toward it, moving fast. One man sloshes a red plastic can, leaving a wet trail that shines under the security light. They are stripping the file room before the hard drives get mirrored by anyone who still believes in law. Caleb pulls a black balaclava down, not for drama, but because cameras are everywhere now. He whispers one word in Dutch. Titan disappears into the dark like he was never there. Inside, Victor sets the last box in the truck and turns to the others. Torch it, full pour. Make sure the server room goes first. The first man never finishes unscrewing the cap. A shadow detonates from the top of the shelving. 95 pounds of muscle and fury, landing square on his back. Titan's jaws close on the meat between neck and shoulder. Precise, surgical, no bark, no wasted motion. The man screams once and goes down hard. Gasoline can clattering away. The second man spins, reaching. Titan releases, pivots mid-air, and drives into his chest, forepaws slamming the sternum, sending the man crashing into metal shelves. Tools and old paint cans avalanche. Before the man can draw breath, Titan is on him again, teeth an inch from his throat, holding him pinned and silent with nothing but the promise of what comes next. Victor backs away, eyes wide, hands up. Easy, boy. Titan's growl finally comes. Low, subaudible, felt in the bones more than heard. Victor freezes. Caleb steps into the light, grocery bag in one hand, Glock in the other, but pointed at the floor. Evening, Victor, he says. Hands where Titan can see them. Victor's mouth works, but no sound comes out. Caleb walks forward slowly, boots crunching on broken glass. He looks at the boxes, the gasoline trail, the hard drives already stacked like bricks of gold. You are going to burn my sister's future, Caleb says. Burn every lease, every fraudulent mortgage, every payoff. Leave people homeless and call it progress. He tosses the grocery bag. It lands at Victor's feet, papers spilling. Photocopies of everything the clerk sent, plus the originals he just pulled from the open boxes. Take a good look, Caleb says. That's your retirement plan going up in smoke instead. Sirens in the distance. Someone finally called in the screams. Red and blue lights start painting the walls. Caleb backs toward the dock door. Tell Crow the war starts now, and tell him dogs don't forget sense. Titan releases the man under him, turns, and trots to Caleb's side as if the whole thing was choreographed. They vanish into the rain before the first cruiser rounds the corner. Behind them, Victor stares at the papers, at the gasoline soaking into them, at the 2 men bleeding on the concrete, and understands for the first time that some people don't negotiate. Across town, Harlan Crow watches the security feed go black and feels the first cold finger of real fear trace his spine. He reaches for the phone to call the sheriff, then stops, because the sheriff is already calling him, voice shaking. They're in the wind, Harlan, and they've got everything. Crow hangs up without a word. He walks to the gun safe, spins the dial, and loads the Remington 870 he hasn't touched since bird season. Tonight, he thinks, the dog comes first. Chapter 5, Final War, 1009 words. The rain stops just before dawn, leaving the world dripping and cold. Harlan Crow's compound sits 3 miles outside town, on a bluff overlooking the river. 10 acres of manicured lawn, brick walls, motion sensors, and 4 armed guards who used to be prison guards until the state decided they were too rough. Crow has not slept. He stands on the upstairs balcony in a silk robe, shotgun across his arm, watching the gate through night vision binoculars. He knows Caleb Reese is coming. Men like Reese always come. At 05:12, the first guard goes down without a sound. Titan appears out of the tree line like black smoke, hits the man behind the knee, drags him into the tall grass before the scream can form. 30 seconds later, the second guard at the gatehouse turns to the monitor that just went dark and never feels the forearm across his throat until the world tunnels away. Caleb slips through the gate wearing the dead guard's rain jacket, radio crackling softly on his shoulder, with voices that will never be answered. Titan moves ahead, low and fluid, pausing only to taste the air. They have done this dance in worse places with worse odds. Inside the main house, Crow has gathered the last of his inner circle. Victor with his arm in a sling, Sheriff Bodine trying to look brave, 2 remaining enforcers with AR pistols they barely know how to use. They wait in the study, doors barred, lights low, every screen showing empty lawn. Crow speaks first. "The dog's the problem. Put the dog down." The man breaks. Victor nods, sweat shining on his upper lip. He loads a shotgun with rifled slugs the size of thumbs. On the east lawn, Titan stops, head high, nostrils flaring. Caleb reads the change instantly. He whispers, "Such," and the dog quarters left, leading him around the side of the house toward the attached garage, where the smell of gasoline is strongest. They are almost there when the garage door explodes upward. Victor charges out, firing blind, slugs chewing chunks from the brick where Caleb's head was a half-second earlier. Caleb rolls, comes up firing 2 controlled pairs, center mass. Victor staggers, but the vest takes it. He swings the shotgun like a club. Titan launches. 95 pounds, moving 40 miles an hour, hits Victor in the chest. The shotgun spins away. Man and dog crash through the shattered garage door, disappearing inside amid crashing metal and a roar of pain that is entirely human. Caleb follows at a dead run. Inside, the fight is already over. Titan has Victor pinned against the hood of Crow's vintage Mustang, jaws locked on the same arm that struck Emily, pressure precise. No arterial tear yet, just the promise. Victor is on his knees sobbing, trying not to move. Caleb steps past them toward the interior door. "Hold," he tells the dog. Titan freezes, teeth still buried, eyes burning. The study door bursts open. Sheriff Bodine steps out with a revolver, shaking in both hands. "Drop it. Hands where I—" Caleb raises empty hands slowly. "You sure you want to die for Harlan Crow's money, Tom?" Bodine hesitates. That is all the time Titan needs. Released by Caleb's soft los. The dog releases Victor, spins, and crosses 15 feet of marble floor in a blur. Bodine fires once into the ceiling as Titan barrels into him, jaws clamping the gun wrist. The revolver clatters away. Bodine screams, high and thin, knees buckling. Titan drags him down and holds him there like a lion on a gazelle, waiting for the word that never comes. Caleb keeps walking. He kicks the study door wide. Crow stands behind the massive oak desk, shotgun leveled. The 2 remaining enforcers flank him, rifles up, but eyes wide at the sounds from the hall. "End of the line, Harlan." Crow's voice is steady, almost amused. "You think you're some avenging angel, boy. This town was dying when I got here. I'm giving it a future. You're giving it a casino built on widows' tears." Crow shrugs. Progress has a price. He fires. The slug takes Caleb high in the left shoulder, spins him half around, blood blooming dark. Caleb staggers but stays on his feet, Glock coming up. Crow racks another round, and the window behind him shatters inward. Titan crashes through glass and wood like a missile, having left Bodine whimpering on the floor. He clears the desk in one bound, hits Crow chest high. The shotgun roars again, harmlessly into the ceiling, as man and dog slam backward into the wall of monitors. Sparks explode. Crow's head cracks against hardwood. The fight lasts 4 seconds. 4 seconds of snarls and desperate hands trying to find eyes or throat, while Titan simply takes what he wants, the forearm holding the gun. Bone snaps like green wood. The shotgun falls. The two enforcers freeze, weapons half raised, unsure whether to shoot the dog and risk hitting Crow. Caleb uses the moment. 3 steps, muzzle against the nearest man's temple. Down! The rifle clatters. The second man drops his without being asked. Caleb limps forward, blood soaking his sleeve, and stands over Crow. Titan still has the arm, head low, waiting. Crow coughs blood. You can't win. I already did, Caleb says. He reaches into his pocket with his good arm and pulls the micro recorder that has been transmitting live to the VFW bartender's voicemail, and from there to every major news outlet in St. Louis. Sirens now, real ones, state police frequencies, not Bodine's boys. Headlights sweep the drive. The front door splinters under a battering ram. Crow's eyes widen. You recorded everything, Caleb finishes. From the moment you said progress has a price. He looks at Titan. Loslot. Titan releases instantly, steps back, sits. Perfect sit amid the ruin, tongue lolling once, pink against black fur. State troopers flood the room, weapons up, shouting commands no one resists. Crow is cuffed while still on the floor. Bodine is dragged past whimpering. Victor is carried out on a stretcher, pale and silent. Caleb sinks to one knee as medics swarm him. Titan presses against his good side, steadying him, eyes never leaving the men who hurt his family. One trooper, young and awed, asks, "That dog, is he safe?" Caleb manages half a smile through the pain. Only if you are. 6 months later, the river runs cleaner than it has in 20 years. The casino deal collapsed the day the indictments dropped. 47 counts of racketeering, fraud, extortion, and conspiracy to commit arson. Harlan Crow took a plea for 25 years, rather than face a jury that included half the town he tried to bury. Sheriff Bodine flipped first and got 15. Victor, still missing 3 tendons in his right arm, cried in open court when they read the victim statements. Pineview Apartments never got torn down. A federal grant turned it into low-income co-op housing. Emily's name is on the first deed. The bruise on her cheek healed in 10 days. The one on her soul took longer. But Lucas stopped waking from nightmares the week Titan started sleeping across his bedroom doorway. Caleb's shoulder still aches when the weather turns, a permanent souvenir. The Corps offered him a training billet at Lackland. He turned it down. Some wars you leave behind only by staying to guard what you saved. He bought 10 acres outside town with his disability and the reward the state paid for breaking the ring. There's a small house, a kennel that will never hold more than 1 dog, and a porch that faces the river. On the first warm Saturday of spring, Emily pushes Lucas on a tire swing while Caleb throws a battered Kong for Titan. The dog catches it one-handed, always one-handed, never the mouth, and brings it back at a trot, dropping it precisely at Caleb's feet before sitting, waiting. The way he waited on rooftops in Helmand for the next command that might never come. Emily watches them and laughs for the first time in years without checking over her shoulder. You ever miss it? She asks quietly. The Corps, the missions. Caleb looks at Titan, now rolling the Kong under one paw like it owes him money. Every day, he says. But this mission doesn't end, and the partner's better. Lucas runs up, breathless. Uncle Caleb, can Titan come to career day? He's cooler than any policeman. Caleb ruffles the boy's hair. He's retired, bud, but I reckon we can make an exception. That night, the three of them, 4, if you count the shadow that never leaves Caleb's left side, sit on the porch watching fireflies stitch gold through the dark. Emily leans her head on her brother's good shoulder. I was so scared you'd become something terrible over there, she whispers. I was, Caleb answers. Then I came home and remembered what I was supposed to protect. Titan rests his great head on Emily's knee, eyes half closed, the most relaxed he has been since the day he stepped off the plane from Kandahar. Somewhere downriver, a barge horn sounds, low and mournful and free. No badge, no uniform, no warrant gave Caleb Reese the right to walk into that fire. Only one thing did: the sight of his sister bleeding on a floor she scrubbed to keep her son fed. That is the line no system, no law, no amount of money is ever allowed to cross. When the powerful decide the weak are just obstacles on a balance sheet, they forget that every obstacle has a brother, a son, a friend who was taught that some things are worth bleeding for. Justice is not a building downtown. It is not a judge's gavel or a politician's promise. Justice is what rises when good men and women refuse to look away. When a mother stands between her child and a fist. When a soldier comes home and remembers the oath was never just to a flag, but to the defenseless. And sometimes, justice has 4 legs, cold eyes, and a heart that never learned how to quit. Power that preys on the powerless always believes it is permanent. It never is. Because somewhere, always, there is a titan waiting for the word. Protect the weak, punish the cruel. Stand in the door when evil comes knocking. That is the only law that lasts.